is a time of change. Events in life, like seasons of the year, provide opportunities and reasons to reflect. Life does not stand still, though we may cherish stability in some form or other. A crisis can arise, like the coronavirus epidemic, that shakes the foundations that we thought were secure externally and internally. Crisis brings change whether we respond to it or react to it, leading to positive change or regression, such as waiting for life to return to normal. What emerges will be a new situation, not a return to an old one. We are called onwards. It is an opportunity for change in the positive sense to be renewed. The current situation has made many more aware of their priorities of who and what matters in life. A greater awareness of others has led to many generous acts of service from frontline workers, medical staff, and good neighbours. A crisis can enable us to forget ourselves and our own concerns, to respond to the greater needs of others. The everyday can imprison us in the little things, but some emergency provides a bigger picture that evokes generosity beyond the call of duty. There is the good news in the midst of the challenges. Our potential for doing good is called forth. As in the rest of the world, in Ireland, bad news is put before us on a daily basis, be it the deficits of the healthcare services or the quality of decisions made by the government, where we are prone to get caught with the bad news. That is one of the perils of the ongoing human story, where vision can be lost. We express anger at the shortcomings of the past, such as the scandal of the mother and baby homes in Ireland. The secrets of that sad and distressing time are being exposed, with outrage expressed at what happened and at those who were deemed responsible. A full report is called for, with the demand that something should be done to make reparation for it. How could those involved have done such a thing, treating people so disrespectfully? Now it is time to investigate, to come to a fuller understanding, to find people to blame and come up with some form of redress. We want the truth about the past. We want to dig up the evidence, literally and metaphorically. There is a call to learn from that sad experience of the past so that it doesn't happen again. The truth is that it cannot happen again in that format, as times have changed. These institutions no longer exist. Social situations and conditions are different. Healthcare is better. Information is more readily available. And there's more tolerance overall, with a different perspective on sexuality, motherhood, and where children are born. In brief, it cannot happen again in that way. The mistakes of the past are evident. So are we looking back to learn or to judge? The judgmental dimension is there. But what do we want to learn? It can help us understand the past, but it invites us to apply the basic message to the present. It reflects an underlying attitude that gives rise to a pattern of behavior that finds expression in every age. Perspective can be lost. A problem-centered vision and approach can prevail. Indeed, people can be seen as problems, and then there's a desire to hide them away and pretend we do not know, or to see them as someone else's concern. The dignity of each person and the right to respect can be overlooked. That has happened and continues to happen, unfortunately. Maybe it is time to dig into the present and bring change now in situations where we can do something. The reality is that something similar is happening right now in front of our eyes if we want to see it. The difficulties can be hidden away and get little attention. People are getting lost in the system. For example, our prison system, with an unduly high percentage of poor and minority communities incarcerated, calls out for a wider reform. The Black Lives Matter movement reveals much prejudice here and elsewhere. The plight of refugees and asylum seekers falls far short when human dignity is considered. What goes on in direct provision centres is little different from the injustices of the past. Despite healthcare and welfare services, there are many children who fall through the system. Human dignity, respect for people, is a lovely theory and a nice ideal, but the lived reality falls far short when we look at the past or the present. Many live in overcrowded situations with little space for privacy. For example, asylum seekers and refugees live with an uncertain future, waiting for a country to adopt them, to give them a home that is safe. They can wait for years to find out their status and to be offered a new future with hope. The deaths of asylum seekers off the coast of popular holiday resorts often goes unnoticed. What is happening now has much in common with other stories of the past, but they do not seem to evoke the same level of anger or outrage. Are we going to wait for another generation to demand a public inquiry about the current situation of injustice and write another report to decorate the shelves of future generations? As we examine the past with its overcrowded facilities, poor physical conditions, inadequately trained personnel, insanitary conditions, we might also explore the present and come up with a way forward. We can come to a fuller understanding of the past, but it may offer little that's helpful in moving onwards. The coronavirus has shown up many other viruses that have been flourishing for a long time at a more subtle level. They've been spreading unnoticed or have been ignored, yet their results are there for anyone to see who wants to see. Much has gone on that has brought further division and inequality. Human frailty, greed, selfishness, self-sufficiency, self-preoccupation with heightened expectations have been allowed to flourish. The contamination they bring can be kept under the radar until some crisis emerges. Self-preoccupation and self-sufficiency blind us to the wider picture. The problem is seen as out there, belonging to others or to a different time. In truth, it reflects something of the human story of what can go on between people when the focus is lost. That speaks of the past and of the present. These viruses need to be explored if they are to be controlled. We are living that reality at a time when the coronavirus has dominated much of what is happening. It affects life at all levels, personally, socially, locally, nationally, and internationally. A little virus has stopped all of us in our tracks. It serves as a wake-up call at many levels within the human story. Similar patterns are evident as before. People can get lost in the system and be exploited or overlooked as they are considered to be of little importance. They can be locked away, hidden from sight, and get attention only at a later date. Such people are way down the line when it comes to serious discussion. For example, the wealthier nations will benefit from the vaccines for the coronavirus much sooner. The poor, those who live in overcrowded conditions, those who are more vulnerable to the virus will have to wait for the crumbs that fall from the table of the rich. So what have we learned from past failures? When we stop to reflect, our smug complacency and our shallow mediocrity is challenged. This is a time to be honest in acknowledging and facing the problems, not avoiding them or trying to hide them. Developing a victim culture is not a good way forward. Yet there has been mistakes in the past, so there were people who had responsibility, but it seems most of them are dead. Seeking heads to roll, people to blame, groups to be punished financially or otherwise, can serve to keep the issue out there, removed from ourselves. We are all part of what is happening and what has happened. We are repeating the past, but in a different way. The current situation reveals a familiar pattern of human failure. Of course, we can look to others to resolve it or to provide solutions as if we were not part of it. What is happening is a call to change of heart to all of us at all levels, personally, socially, politically, and religiously. Looking out there and asking others to take responsibility for what has happened and is happening is short-sighted. Each of us is blind to some degree, and much of that blindness is communal. Each of us is called to change and to be instruments of change. We need prophetic voices, not blind guides, to provide the way forward. This is an opportune time to refocus, looking to the Lord to provide the vision that is life-giving and respectful for all God's people. This will lessen the impact of the various viruses that have taken hold. The call to conversion is put before us again, as it has been so often in the human story. May we have the honesty to acknowledge the need of it, the humility to pray for it, and the freedom to accept it and to live it. The mistakes of the past, which are similar to those of the present in many ways, do not need to continue. We can do something now with the different viruses that are so influential in the ongoing human story. This requires decisive action that respects all people, irrespective of background or social situations. For reflection, I pose these questions. How has my vision changed over the past year? What is the invitation to me now, given this opportunity? How do I hear the call to be with and for the disadvantaged? I give a few scripture texts from Exodus 22. You shall not wrong or oppress a resident alien, for you are aliens in the land of Egypt. The invitation at the end of the story of the Good Samaritan, go and do likewise. Be a compassionate helper as the Good Samaritan was to the victim at the side of the road. Others walk by on their way to their more important appointments in Jericho. Or from Matthew 7, in everything do to others as you would have them do to you. God be with you.